Facebook, maybe.
Are we live at all?
I'm not.
I think I just felt the vibration in my pocket that says we're live.
Yeah.
Twice.
Alright, Matt, introduce us so we're not here awkwardly just in case.
Thank you for tuning in to the Spindown podcast. I'm Matt. This is our guest, Nathaniel, one for Hoffman, and
I'm Tiny.
Alright.
That's Tiny something.
Tonight we have some interesting topics for you tonight. We're going to be talking about our favorite Magic cards. We're going to be talking about cards that we think might be overrated or underrated, and
risk and the place it should take in your games of Magic is the BS title that I give that.
What does BS stand for? I'm going for BS in school. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Alright, well.
First of all, elephant in the room, Andre isn't here because he's sick. Sucks for him.
Yeah, he should get better.
But we have Hoffman here, as you can see.
That I am.
What other things? Also, yeah, if you noticed, our 6-hour stream got cut in half to like 3.5 hours. So that was technical difficulties. Hopefully we can figure that out and bring you another 6-hour stream. So guess what? You'll get 3 free hours of streaming because of our technical difficulties.
Yeah, I showed up at the 6-hour stream and they immediately shut it down.
Yeah, that's pretty much what
It's because we were eating pizza upstairs.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate because I wanted to play some Overcooked on stream.
On the news, we got any good stuff?
News, more spoilers happened, but I think we're gonna reserve that for next episode. Since this is episode 10, I wanted to, also episode 10, but episode 11 will be spoilers and stuff, because that'll still be before the pre-release, right? Because it's in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be like the Wednesday before pre-release, I think.
It'll be...
Perfect.
You'll be doing it a couple days before pre-release.
We won't review the whole set, I don't think, but I think we can hit some key cards for Constructed and key ideas for Limited. Besides that, did anything major happen in Magic this week? Hoffman and I are going to Eternal Extravaganza this week, so wish us luck. Us and Cam. Cam is also coming.
Yeah. We'll hopefully be crushing some...
Legacy and Vintage.
Yeah.
There were some spoils that we can talk about that won't spoil anything by Excellent. I'm really excited for the Mana Drain reprint.
Oh yeah, I guess the
Iconic Masters
reprints,
was really cool.
Iconic Masters, yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, not that I'm gonna play it, but I wouldn't mind having one.
I mean, I'll probably do like one draft. I think I've done like one draft of every Masters so far.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as like all of us draft. I don't like drafting with randos, but
yeah.
audio up, please, like always. Unfortunately, due to the fact that Andre isn't here, we don't have his awesome mic, so we can just talk louder.
Yeah, talk louder. That's fine. I can do that.
What if I want to talk quieter?
You guys can also scoot in a little because you have room in between each other.
Me and Matt can get nice and cuddly.
But yeah, Iconic Masters is sweet, also known as Reprint Masters, but that's every Masters set.
No, it looks real good. I mean, I think they really hit the nail on the head with this one.
They're missing Shivon Dragon though, so it's a pun.
Yeah, I mean, darn. I really wanted to open my rare Shivon Dragon.
Mythic Rare.
Yeah, mythic rare Shivon Dragon.
What's the demon they did?
Lord of the Pit.
Yep.
Apparently, I saw Tolarian Community College posted a thing where they're like, now you can get your $1 Lord of the Pits, and it doubled the price of regular Lord of the Pit to like $300.
Whoa.
Yeah, so.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's the news. On to our first topic, since it is our 10th episode, which, honestly, Matt, did you see us making it to 10 episodes?
No.
I didn't either.
That's
I
all
didn't
like
think I would
20
make it
weeks
to
of
10.
content. But yeah, episode 10. So I figured we would go over our 10 favorite cards in Magic. Not necessarily cards we think are the best cards in Magic, as you'll see on at least my list. But our 10 favorite cards.
He was gonna call me out there for a second.
That is true. I think he was.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think one of my cards is definitely worse than all of your cards.
I think I only have one unplayable card. No, I have 2 on my list. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So speaking of Hoffman's list, we'll jump right into that, and I think we'll explain reasons for as we go through each card, reasons why.
Gift hug style commander deck where you here have this sweet card, here have this sweet card. I'll draw cards in the meanwhile.
Politics.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second to.
Okay.
While you're still.
Get you once it starts.
Yeah, I mean, I had Zedru built for a long time. I've now moved on to Wizards, which Wizards also sweet. It's a good tribe. One thing Wizards don't have over Zedru, they're not goat people. Well, most of them aren't. There probably is a goat person wizard out there somewhere. I actually think Zedru is a wizard. Yeah, and just wizard, best creature type. Zedru, best of the wizards? Question mark.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. All right. Are the technical issues sorted out?
Yeah, it turns out when I made the multiple scenes for each of our cards, I forgot to add the mic to each of the scenes.
Ah.
All right, so on to your next card.
Okay, yeah. So next card, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, also commonly known as Gary. This was like my really big hit, make it out into Magic card. The first real tournament I played in was the Theros Game Day.
Yeah.
Where I played not quite the Mono Black Devotion with Pack Rats and Thoughtseizes and all that, but I had a bunch of the big hitters nailed down in the deck. I had Desecration Demon, I had Grey Merchant, I had, I think I had Nightvale Spectre.
You played Pack Rat, right? Or did you not know about that
Pack Rat,
one? Okay.
no. Because this was before it even made this was before it was even a deck.
Okay.
Yeah, before it made a scene on the Star City tour or whatever.
Yeah.
I played some sweet cards in that list. Dark Prophecy was my card draw engine. I played Rakdos Shred Freak.
Yeah, you needed those black mana symbols,
Yeah,
man.
dude, it was sweet. I mean, I top aided. It was a good first event for me.
Yeah.
I lost to Ray Persley in the first round of top 8. He had a bunch of Blood Baron of Viscopas in his deck.
That'll do it.
That card continued to be my bane for that standard. But Grey Merchant, he's a sweet card. I think when he got spoiled, people knew he would be good in that standard.
Yeah.
He's just a powerful effect. There was a lot of good black cards in that standard. I don't think people necessarily saw that cards like Pack Rat would have seen play right away, but
that whole standard was just comprised of limited bombs.
Yeah, it was great. But that's like right when I first started getting into Magic, and it was honestly I think that deck was a blast to play. And honestly, looking back on it, it was very easy to play as well. It was a great time, I think, to get into Magic.
Yeah. I played Burn while you did that. It was great.
Yeah, it was fun. We played a lot of IQs back in the day when they were worth going to.
Yep. All right. Next card?
Next card, Tendrils of Agony. So this is a card that I would say I play more often nowadays, though I guess recent vintage deck lists aside. Back to playing this card in Legacy. It's just a sweet sorcery. 2 black, drain 2. Real simple card. Storm. It's just, I think the most fun win con possible in the deck. It feels super good to, be like, cast Tendrils. 15 copies on the stack. 32 copies on the stack. However many. 32 might be a bit much, though. That's definitely. I've definitely had storm counts up there, but
in
that's
vintage,
me.
yes.
That's me running the clock at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, Tendrils not much to really talk about on this one. I think it's just a very fun win condition.
Both you and I have played a lot of Tendrils decks in a lot of formats.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Next card. This one I think might be the one that stands out most on my list. From everything else.
It is standing.
That is true. In fact, I think on the most new art, it's standing on a rock. Mirror Enforcer. Mirror Enforcer. Probably the deck I've played the longest is Pauper Affinity, and this card, I don't think either of you could argue, is just an all-star in that deck. One of the crux cards in the deck.
Yeah, it's probably the best creature.
Yeah, you get a free 4/4 a lot of the time, or at least a 1 or 2 mana one. Even a 3 mana 4/4, that's a discount. It's super fun to take these turns where you're like, all right, play this artifact, Thoughtcast, Mirror Enforcer, Mirror Enforcer, Mirror Enforcer, and your opponent's just to go, yeah, I can't win this game.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just absurd the things that you can do with this card. Even Frogmite, not nearly as big a thing, but Mirror Enforcer is just an absurd Magic card and extremely fun to play with. That's why it makes it.
See, what I think is cool about Mirror Enforcer and the Pauper Affinity deck as a whole is the fact that most of the time when you're playing the I need to stabilize game, you're like, I've stabilized, I'm not dying, but I don't have any pressure, so they can still top deck. Whereas in the Affinity deck, you're like, I stabilized, here's 18 power, go.
Yes, yeah. I mean, like, obviously you're normally the aggressor, but there are definitely those games where you're on the back foot, and you're like, wow, how am I going to win this game? And you draw, like, 4 cards, and you're like, oh, I'm going to kill you in 2 turns.
Yep.
This is probably the deck that all 3 of us collectively have played, like, the
Yeah,
most.
that is
Yes,
true.
yeah.
Man, I've played this a lot. It might also be my most profitable percentage-wise deck, I think.
Yeah, just because Pauper Knights at tap and attack were so insanely profitable. Yeah.
Thought Scour is the next card on my list. This card, I think, might need the most explanation out of any of the cards.
Yeah.
So Thought Scour, front face, if you haven't played with it, it looks kind of boring. Target player mills 2 cards, and then you draw a card. Whoop-de-doo, right? Well, there was a time period in Magic where Treasure Cruise was a card that was a 4/of legal in every format. And it was busted.
Yeah. I remember when, I think it was me that pointed out Thought Scour to you as like, hey, it's just Dark Ritual draw card.
And that's exactly what it is. You were paying a blue mana, you were netting 3 mana towards your Delve spell, and then also drawing a card at the same time. It was just, super absurd. It let you do things like casting Treasure Cruise on turn 2 in Modern. Nowadays, it lets you cast Gurmag Anglers and Tassigars on turn 2.
Yeah. It feeds you Snapcasters.
Yeah, it's just such a... It's a card that really brings some deck synergies together in ways that they would probably still be good without.
Yeah.
But it turns some of these cards into super powerful cards. Turn 2, 4/5s, 5/5s. Turn 2, draw 3 cards.
And I think it's insane because it's also printed at common.
It is a common. In fact, Thought Scour is a player in Pauper. I mean, I don't think people really play it anymore, but there was that Turbo Angler.
There was a Turbo Angler deck.
Yeah.
I know I played it in Delver when Treasure Cruise was legal. Like I cut Preordains and just played it in Delver. Yeah, it's just a really good card. It's the same reason that like random cards like Faithless Looting are really good with Dredge, in that in a vacuum it's not that great of a card, but it feeds other keywords and other synergies so well.
Yeah. Next card on the list, we're in the bottom 5 now. Young Pyromancer. So this card, again, a lot of people who follow competitive Magic are going to know that this card has made quite a scene. Not nearly as powerful as something like Treasure Cruise on the front, but you could argue that in a lot of the decks that played Treasure Cruise or are currently like in Delver decks and stuff like that, it's one of the big powerhouse cards. I think it's seeing a little less play now than it was maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago.
I think Walking Ballista has been part of that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But it's still a big player, and to me, it's one of the most fun things to do. I love casting spells. Well, I'll specify non-creature spells. I love casting non-creature spells.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, instants and sorceries. And Young Pyromancer just really supports that sort of strategy and lets you cantrip through your deck and get value off of it. Lets you do some real absurd things. Like, my favorite turn 2 in all of Legacy is play turn 1 Death Rate.
Yep.
Turn 2, make a mana off Death Rate, play Pyromancer, Jataxian Probe you, Cabal Therapy you. It's backbreaking.
Yeah, it's the best 4-card combo in Magic.
It's really good. I mean, you don't even need the
probe. Yeah, it's just insane. It's insane with probe. It's really good without probe.
Pyromancer is just like a super fun card to really go off with. In a way, it can be a Storm card just as well as anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, you've personally played it in Vintage as your Storm win condition sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I also played Tendrils in the Gush Bond deck, but Pyromancer was insane in Vintage when Walking Ballista wasn't as prevalent and when Mentor wasn't a card.
Yeah.
Even when Mentor was a card, it was still really good.
I remember when it first got printed, reading things on the internet about how this was the first card to make a splash in Vintage, like new card in Vintage.
In a while.
I
think that was true, yeah.
Because, like, so the old Grow decks, which, if, like, people don't know that, it's, Gush, like, I think they originally played,
what's the Dryad called? Quirion Dryad?
They either played Quirion Dryad or they played Psychotog.
Yeah.
And the idea was you play a bunch of spells to make a creature bigger.
You're growing it.
And it was vertical growth in that one card got so much bigger. But the problem was that was in a time when no one played removal. Mm-hmm. And when Pyromancer came out, people were starting to play more and more removal.
Yeah.
So going wide was a significantly better way to win a game than going tall.
It's also one of those things where against a deck like Workshops in Vintage, it let you...
It was the red moat.
It was. I mean, it gave you time to... You're casting this 2 or 3 mana cantrip, which was not great, but at least you're getting like a 1/1 out of it. You're going to block for a turn or something like that.
Yeah.
Which bought you time to hit land drops, to destroy their spheres.
Yeah.
And you'll eventually stabilize. Super fun card. That's why it's on my top 10. Next card, this is a spicy one. Doomsday. Alright. I think this is the longest text on all of the cards. Though Zedru gives it kind of a run for its money.
Yeah.
This is definitely the most complicated text, though. Doomsday. Where to start? How can you not love a card that makes you pay half of your life? Round it up, mind you. You cannot cast this card if you're at 1 life. You will die.
You get to resolve the whole card first.
You do get to resolve the whole card first. The last part of it is losing your life. So Doomsday. It's a kind of simple premise. You're going to basically turn your library into 5 cards of your choosing. Your library and your graveyard combined into, you have a 5-card library. And that probably seems like a disadvantage to start out with. But as it turns out, when you get to stack your library, that's a pretty good effect.
Yeah.
Even when you only have 5 cards.
Yeah.
Now, this card was used as a win con before the card Laboratory Maniac was printed. It was definitely more convoluted.
Yeah.
But ever since the card Laboratory Maniac was printed, it became much simpler to just win the game.
And for those that don't know, Lab Maniac is 2 and a blue 2/2, right?
2/2.
That says if you would draw a card but don't have a card in library, you win the game instead of losing the game.
Instead of milling out and losing, you mill out and win essentially.
Yeah.
So it made Doomsday win cons. They still played Tendrils and stuff like that, but it was much easier to just set up your Doomsday pile so that you could cast Laboratory Maniac and draw your deck all on the same turn and win the game. I think it's just a super fun effect. I mean, it's a crazy effect when you think about it. You're going all in on something. Often if someone could interact with your Doomsday pile and you weren't prepared for it, you lost the game.
Yep.
And I think that's super fun. It's I guess it goes into the risk-taking portion later on.
I think the coolest thing about Doomsday is it's such a powerful combo card because it's a combo card.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to play this as a fair type of card. But it's the most powerful combo card that also isn't broken. Because, it's not banned in Legacy, not banned in Vintage, not banned in Commander, not banned in Tiny Leaders.
Yeah.
Of Land of banning all the degenerate 3-drops. It's just, it's exactly, it turns on other combos, but it doesn't create its own combo, and I just think that's sweet.
And it's still powerful. I mean, it doesn't necessarily see play a ton in any of those formats. It used to see some Vintage play, not really anymore with the restriction of Gush, which was a big part of the deck.
Yep.
But it's seen play in all those formats, and maybe not been tier 1, but it's been somewhat competitive, and it's been very long-standing. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's a super fair combo card. Mostly for the reason that, if your opponent interacts with you, and it's not hard to interact with your opponent who has 5 cards left.
Yeah.
They do usually lose the game. I mean, there was definitely plenty of games in Vintage where I'm like, I can't fit a Thoughtseize or something into my Doomsday pile. I hope my opponent doesn't have a sudden shock to kill me.
Yep.
It also does feel good when you have the ACON hand as the opponent.
Yes,
They're like,
yeah.
resolve this Laboratory Maniac and like with it on the stack, draw the rest of your deck.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was super easy to lose the game a lot of the time. But it was a fun card, nonetheless.
It's also neat how the combo generally stays the same, but the stack doesn't.
Yes, yeah. You generally have, a lot of times when you play Doomsday, you had a similar 2 to 4 cards in your deck, but it was modified, and you could also go different routes. Doomsday, sweet card. Next card on the list is the newest card on the list. In fact, it is
Still standard legal?
Yeah, still standard legal. It's not where I play it, but it's a nifty card. Paradoxical Outcome. 3 in the blue. Target any number of non-token, non-land permanents you control. Return them to your hand and draw a card for each one. That's the gist of it. Where it really shines is in Vintage, where you're playing your Moxen, you're playing your Mana Crypts, you're playing your Mana Vaults, Black Lotus, even Sensei's Divining Top and stuff like that. You have all these cheap artifacts that, when all of them get turned into draw card, as well as producing you mana, it's super powerful. A lot of the times the card's either 2 mana draw 2 or 1 mana draw 3, and then it gets to a point where you're like, make 3 mana draw 4 cards, make 3 mana draw 5 cards. It just becomes like an absurd engine card that lets you draw through essentially your whole deck. It has some strong synergies with cards like Snapcaster Mage, which are powerful, as well as is a way to save yourself from things like Mana Crypt. It's a good card against things like Tanglewire. Has inherent weaknesses against other cards, of course, but I think it's just a super fun engine card that currently I've been doing very well with also in Vintage.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it might be like this side of too good though, but
that's what a lot of people are talking about. Is that it's now the number 1 enemy essentially.
Yeah, in Vintage at least. Yeah. We tried to get it to work in Legacy, man, but it's just
you gotta play some bad cards in Legacy to make it work.
God forbid you try and play it in Modern.
I've even thought about playing Mishra's Bauble with it in Vintage, which I mean, when I'm
why don't you just play Frogmite?
Frogmite? Hey, good point. I mean, that's even a win con.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Outcome is a super, super sweet Magic card.
Yep.
I honestly thought that it would go before Mentor would.
I think Mentor was definitely the right restriction.
Yeah, as much as you hate it, Matt, because you played Mentor, I think Mentor was just too good.
Yeah.
For all the reasons that Pyromancer was good, Mentor was good, but infinitely better. Yeah. And like we pointed out last episode, if you cut like any keyword on Mentor, not even like any line of text on Mentor, any sentence, it just becomes a balanced card. But all the sentences combined, just
it's such an absurd Magic card.
Yep.
Last Magic card on my list. Finally, we got there.
Like 15 minutes later.
Yeah. This might be a long episode, I guess. Oh wait, this isn't even the last one. We got 2 more. Yeah, I forgot. See, the bottom of my list right here is cut off. We got 2 more. That's fine. Brainstorm's a quick one. Everyone knows this one. Draw 3 cards, put 2 back on top of your library.
Yeah. Brainstorm,
super fun. I mean, it's the fixed Ancestral Recall, right? Well, quote unquote fixed. It's not.
I think it was fixed. I think it's powerful, but I think it's fair.
Yeah. So the real power level of this card comes when you play it with cards like Fetch Lands or other shuffle effects.
Yeah, even Thought Scour.
Yeah, even Thought Scour. That counts. You essentially get to put 2 bad cards back in your library and then get rid of them somehow. It's just really fun to draw 3 cards, and I've played this card pretty much since I started playing Magic. I got into Legacy pretty fast, and I've always played a blue deck in that format. So
except for when you played Burn.
Except for when I played Burn. That was only a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I could have fit Brainstorm into that deck, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, Brainstorm, super fun Magic card, super powerful. Everyone loves drawing cards.
Yep.
Let's not forget, though, the power of whenever someone plays a card like Cabal Therapy or Thoughtseize or Duress against you, and you have a Brainstorm and you have cards that you absolutely cannot have them take.
Yep.
Just the power of being able to put those
Hide
cards.
them away.
Yeah, you just put them back on top of your deck and you're like, I'll draw them next turn, and then they don't get to take them away from you.
Yeah.
Or resetting miracles. Never did that myself, but
Yeah. Didn't you play Miracles one tournament?
yeah, like once or twice, yeah.
Yeah.
But
You hated it.
it was not the most fun deck.
Yep. All right. So last but not least,
Yeah, by far my favorite card. Tiny's heard me drone on and on about how much I love this card.
you should write a book about it.
Maybe I will. Maybe it'll be my next endeavor. My 86th book. Cabal Therapy. Again, this Magic card, it's got a pretty simple text on it. It's black. Name a card. If that card is in your opponent's hand, they have to discard it. Name a non-land card.
Yes.
And then it has flashback, sacrifice a creature. This card looks pretty innocent, upright. But when you get to combine it with cards like Young Pyromancer and Jataxian Probe, you just get this card that makes easy 2-for-1s happen, and you get super in-depth blind names off of it. That's the most fun thing I think in all of Magic.
Yeah, is blind naming.
Blind naming with Cabal Therapy.
Blind naming when you put thought into it. It is fun to randomly blind name when you don't think about it, but I think the real payoff and sense of achievement is thinking the game through and figuring out, oh, it's turn 6. Oh, these lines have happened.
Yep.
These cards would have been cast. This is the card I can't beat that wouldn't have been cast yet. I should name that instead of random card that I could definitely get, but won't necessarily matter in the long run.
Yeah, and sure, there's a lot of decks like Ad Nauseam Tendrils, for example, in Legacy, where there's only a very select few cards you care about, and so you end up naming them a lot with the card.
Yeah.
But when we played Grixis Delver, a lot of the time it was you had to think very hard when you blind name something about maybe you want to name a removal spell, maybe you want to name a planeswalker they could possibly have. Maybe they brainstormed after you Jataxian probed them, and you could only guess if they kept that card around. And so you end up in these mind games where it feels super good to get it correct.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes you get to flash it back with your Pyromancer token anyway and take it.
Yeah.
It's just a super fun Magic card.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's your top 10 favorite cards.
Alright. So see you guys in an hour when we get to the next one.
Yeah. Give me a second to make audio work on Matt's thing. So
Fun times. I'm glad you got it up on your phone here, I see. Oh.
So we definitely have some cards that
alright, audio's back.
Audio's back. There we go.
Can't say weird stuff anymore.
Alright, so the list I gave you, we're going the bottom one first.
Your favorite card is the last card to come up.
Alright.
And it's Sundial Infinite is the one that's on the page right now.
Yep. Alright, so after a lot of thought, I do love Sundial the Infinite. You gotta love a card that says, end your turn.
Well, let everyone in on the little secret that this edged out Monastery Mentor on his top 10 favorite cards of all time.
Yeah.
After the restriction for Monastery Mentor, playing it kind of died for me, along with I don't see myself playing Vintage for any time.
Yeah.
Anytime coming soon. But I played this card a lot in Commander. It goes with my favorite card.
Yeah.
So we'll keep the good ones for last. But it did feel really good to be able to play cards that like the Parallax Wave and Tide.
Yeah.
Where you get to remove all the counters off of it and remove creatures or lands, and then before you're supposed to give them back, you can just end your turn.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to shut off the second half of triggers that you might not want to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It seems like one of the worst cards you could play, but when you play it with the right cards, I think it's even kind of broken.
It's even seen a slight resurgence now with the new Wizard Commander in Nala. People are playing it to keep their Wizard tokens around.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily worthwhile.
But hey, it's EDH. You get to play fun
EDH.
stuff.
Yeah. Like I said, what I really love doing with, we'll save till last. Then my next one's going to be Cabal Therapy, which is already covered by Hoffman. However, my first time casting Cabal Therapy was with Dredge.
Oh yeah,
it's definitely
really good.
very different in that deck.
Very different, where you get to sacrifice a Narcomoeba to flash it back and make tokens off of your bridge from below, so you don't even really necessarily care if you have enough, if you're even hitting at that point.
Yep. Name Force of Will. Oh, you didn't have it? Okay.
I was gonna say, we got Force of Will and you got Stifle are your two big ones that you're trying to name.
Yeah.
And then after that, you can name cards that you know your opponents aren't playing. You're just making a swarm of zombies.
I'll name Abandon Hope.
Yeah.
And it feels really good when you get to just like take their Force of Will and make 4/2/2 zombies.
Yeah.
And like Hoffman's covered, it feels really good when you get to hit that optimal or the 4-card combo and you just take 2 cards from someone with a Pyromancer out.
Yeah.
My next one, it's a little janky. Snow Covered Mountain. One of my favorite decks I play in Modern is Scred.
Yeah.
And you would think Scred would make it on the list, but the Snow Covered Mountain, just when you play that turn 1 and they just immediately know that this is not going to be
a fun match.
No, they're like, he's just going to kill all my creatures. This isn't a tier 1 deck, so I'm not getting good practice out of it either. It just, I don't know, there's something about that just...
Yeah, believe me, we spent like 2.5 hours practicing the Scred versus Infect matchup.
Yeah, that was great. And I mean, Tiny knows, I think you do too, that I play snow-covered basics in most of my decks. Can't play them in Standard. Don't want to have to deal with that. And currently not playing them in Vintage. But
see, the nice thing about Snow-Covered Mountain is it looks different from the other Snow-Covered basics.
Yes.
Snow-Covered Island and Snow-Covered Swamp, the original ones, look exactly the same.
They look very similar.
There's a mountain, just regular mountain, I think, from...
There's an island that has the same art as Snow-Covered Island.
Yeah. Yes. And then the mountains look very similar.
Yeah. I know the newer Snow-Covered Plains is part of a panorama with the regular plains.
Ooh.
Like the 3 plains feed into the Snow-Covered Plains.
Nifty.
Next card?
My next one also gets played in Scred. Actually, the next 3 kind of go together.
Ooh, we also have news for this card, so once you're done explaining why you like it, we should do a sidebar on that.
True. I forgot, that is news. That's relevant.
So the next one's Blood Moon. Blood Moon is one of the cards that makes red decks a lot stronger than they can be. Like, Scred is a very... I would say it's kind of a weaker deck, but when you can turn 2 or turn 3 of Blood Moon, it kind of turns the tides really
it shores up the matchups where having a bunch of removal spells doesn't just win you the game.
Yeah. And it definitely beats, like, 3-color control decks very well.
Yep.
It's just another lockout card.
Yep.
I mean, there are some games where if your opponent doesn't play around Blood Moon, they just don't get to cast spells for the rest of the game. And obviously that's a very powerful effect.
It is nice when, going back to just the Snow-Covered Mountain on my list, when you go turn 1 Snow-Covered Mountain, people a lot of times will understand that means Blood Moon might be coming soon.
Yep.
And when you get to watch people fetch for basics, even without a Blood Moon in hand, knowing that you're taking them off their game, that card,
it changes the game.
Yeah. But it can kind of put fear into a player being like, I can't cast red, or I don't have red spells, so I don't want to only have red mana.
Yeah. And I mean, definitely from playing games of Magic, I know that personally, games where I've played around cards like Blood Moon or Wasteland, I've put myself off of Colors of Mana just to not lose to cards like that. And I mean, it's definitely, I'm sure somewhere it's cost me a game because of that, just having to play around it.
It is the card that's got me the most just immediate concessions. Like Blood Moon, like I can't do anything about that more than any other card I've ever cast.
But yeah, random sidebar. Did you see the new rule for Blood Moon?
Mm-hmm.
So you know how it used to be, if you had a Blood Moon out, things like shock lands, you would still have to shock to be
they
untapped.
just come in as mountains?
Yeah, they're entering as mountains.
So you don't get to name a creature type off of Cavern anymore when you play it.
Cool Wombo combo. Dark Depths doesn't enter with counters.
Yeah, so you can play my Dark Depths and get rid of my own Blood Moon. Yeah.
Some guy built a Modern deck just to realize that Dark Depths is banned in Modern.
There is a real deck people are trying to build in Legacy that's like a Blue Moon style deck where the end goal is to Chain of Vapor your Blood Moon to make a Dark Depths token.
Sure.
Yeah.
Would do like Chain of Vaporing it, because you just bounce it, get this merit light, put it back.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, yeah. So now that sidebar's over,
All right. The next one is Ensnare.
you just don't like fun, do you?
I do not.
No, it's not a fun person.
Well, while we're at it, we might as well just throw in the next one's Chalice of the Void.
Sure.
Covering all at once.
Yeah. But those 3 cards together, I would love to build a deck with just all 3 of those. Just be that guy. But those 2 cards are very oppressive and they're very prisony.
Yep.
You can basically win however you want if you can get.
Except with combat, unless you're doing it with like 1/1s or something.
Hey, I've been on that plan. Attack you with my Glint Nest Crane, play my card, go.
My favorite, one of my favorite decks is Lantern Control, and definitely one of the most like important cards in the deck. I would say is Bridge.
Yeah.
You just kind of get crushed without one.
Yeah.
But to prove the point of you can win almost however you want, I do miss the good Pirate Spellbomb lock.
Oh yeah, the Pirates. I forgot that used to be in the deck.
You know, where you just you have Academy Ruins and enough mana to cast and crack a Pirate Spellbomb, and over 10 turns you just 2 damage your turn.
Yeah.
You can't do anything. All right, put it back on top of my deck with Academy Ruins, cast it, crack it, 2 damage your turn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Chalice of the Void is just really, I think it's kind of like Cabal Therapy, where there's definite, not mind games, but definite thought that has to go into what and when do I play my Chalice.
Yeah, it's definitely an empty card. It's a little less thinking than something like Cabal Therapy.
Yeah.
And a lot of the decks you're playing against, you're like, I want to put this on 0, or I want to put this on 1.
Yeah.
Sometimes you put it on 2, but it's a brutal Magic card.
I think it's the key to Merfolk doing so well for us.
It is nice when you play a Vile deck and a deck with Cavernous Souls.
Yep.
To be able to cast through it.
Yeah.
Like, I have named, or put a Chalice out on 2 with Caverns out. So I'm able to just keep continuously cast my Lords while my opponent was put back real far.
Yeah. Austin says double Chalice on 0 beats Living End, right?
Triple.
Yeah.
Triple. It was triple.
I think that's confirmed. If you have 3 Chalices on 0 versus Living End, which is possible, Phyrexian Metamorph is a card, you will probably win the game.
Or removing counters. You could play the Vampire Hex Mage
Yeah.
Chalice deck.
The Vampire Hex Mage Chalice of the Void combo, yes.
Alright, so now that we got 2 cards out at once, on to probably the most boring card on your list, if I'm being honest.
So the next card is Mental Misstep. It does feel really good in Vintage when you can counter a 1-drop, which there's a lot of cantrips and a lot of 1-drops.
Some pretty important ones.
Yeah.
I can name a few, like Ancestral Recall.
Yeah. Mental Misstep.
Yeah.
I will put it at, it's any 1-drop. It feels good to counter with Misstep. Then Misstep. Then A-Call. And then my favorite thing to do is in Commander when someone goes first and they cast their Soul Ring thinking they're just going to crush because they're so far ahead. And you get to stop them. Just it's very crushing.
Yeah.
And that to me is one of my favorite plays is just to stop that turn 1 Soul Ring with a Misstep.
I definitely know you play a lot more Commander, at least you used to, than Tiny and I. I can imagine that misstepping in Commander feels a lot more fun than it does in just a normal game of Vintage, where you have 4 in your deck and you're always going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so used to it at this point. It just, in my mind, it's like, yeah, I guess that Ancestral says I lose 2 life. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and in Vintage you expect 4 ofs in almost every deck. Commander, most people just don't even anticipate 1.
Oh, yeah.
At the table.
Never
Yeah,
gonna
because
get
like
around.
especially in 4-player, it's really not that great of a card. But in 1v1, it is quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is very powerful to go turn 1 Soul Ring. So just the ability to just stop it just feels real nice.
Yeah. All right.
Alright, my next one is Koth of the Hammer. He's the real reason that I even built Scred. He's probably my favorite Planeswalker. I don't know what it was about him that made me like him to begin with, but it just for 4 mana he can accelerate your mana. it makes so you untaps a land. It's a 4/4. So you can either use that for more mana, so you can push out like a Stormbreath Dragon on 5 even without the land drop, or you just start getting them with your lands, which is kind of hard to stop.
Yep. Yeah, he's a really good threat, especially against things like control decks and stuff like that.
And I think one of the important factors of him is how fast he ultimates. He's one of those few planeswalkers you can play for his ultimate because of how fast it happens.
Yeah, because it's 2 upticks, right?
Yep. And then his -2 just doubles your mana.
Yeah.
Which is insane, especially if you make that land drop and you have 2 dragons.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've made those plays before.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to stop 1 pro weight flyer. It's really, really hard to stop 2 coming at you.
And I would imagine it's even harder to stop 3.
But his ultimate is just, it doesn't win the game right away like a lot of ultimates.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've lost a game personally that I've ultimated a Koth.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to lose with that emblem.
Koth's ultimate it's a good one. I've had to try and fight against the Koth ultimate. It doesn't work out. It does not work out.
And it gets through so like if you play a Leyline of Sanctity, it kind of gets through that because he'll just keep you off of creatures.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, especially if he doesn't die to his ultimate, then he can produce the threat himself.
Yeah.
After clearing the board for you, he just keeps it clear. Like, he's just very efficient, I think.
Yep. Yeah, he's a good, efficient threat. Alright.
Alright, so the next one is Gush. I don't get to do it anymore. After saying, it got restricted in B. I did mention earlier that I don't think I'll play Vintage anymore.
Yeah.
But there's just something about just drawing 2 cards for free.
Yeah.
It just feels really good. It's not 3 cards like Ancestral Recall, but it can produce you mana. He casts through after tapping out. Like if you're searching for like a Force of Will, it's just very versatile.
And to be fair to Gush, it puts more cards into your hand than Ancestral Recall does.
It does.
In fact, it puts 1 additional one.
They're just both islands.
That is true.
Sometimes they're all islands.
Sometimes they are all islands. Yes, that's true. Guaranteed 2 will be. Sometimes all 4 are.
Let's take a sidebar just a sec, because we have Dukin_TV. I think that's how you say your name. I'm probably massacring it. Says, hey guys, it's been a while since I've been back to Magic, and my first time here. Are you going to be going over any of the newer sets? Yes, we talked about that earlier, but obviously we can talk about it again. We will be previewing, or going over previews of the new set in 2 weeks. So 2 Wednesdays from now, I don't know the date off the top of my head, at 8:30 p.m.
13, 20,
It'll be the 17th,
27th?
I think. No.
It's the 13th today,
Oh, yeah.
so the 27th.
the 20.
So,
Math is hard.
Wednesdays from now.
Yeah, 2 Wednesdays from now, 8:30 p.m. Yeah, and you can find us here on Twitch at Spindown Podcast or on YouTube at the Spindown Podcast. So yeah,
I am not the normal bald guy you will see on the show.
yeah. Normally we have Andre. This time we have Hoffman. If we had Andre on, we would have probably ended the show by now because it wouldn't have taken so long to cover favorite.
Hey, no,
I know.
What's wrong?
Yeah, I'm fine talking. It's more a prod at Andre than. But yeah, hey, thanks for checking us out, and make sure to check us out in 2 weeks when we go over the new set and cards that we think will be good for standard and cards that we think will be good for limited.
And any like modern or legacy implications that any of the cards might have.
Yeah, we can also cover that. Not that there will be much, but yeah.
Opt. I just want to talk about Opt.
As a side note,
To our side note.
if you want to hear Andre's top 10 list, you can just turn on a fan in your room and listen to the silence in the room, and that's pretty much what Andre will sound like. Talking about his top 10 list.
Andre, we love and respect you, and we hope you get better soon.
At Magic.
Oh, that's so mean. Alright.
And then Austin says, Tiny, isn't it your turn to list 10 cards from the only deck I play? What's the only deck I play? I play I think I play more decks than you guys.
Yeah, you play green ramp and standard, and you play draw cards in vintage.
No, you play. Okay, so
Well,
so he
so,
plays
so
my
I'm
decks.
also I play draw cards in vintage normally, except I'm signing up with Snarethopter this weekend in
Yeah.
vintage.
So my last one before we get to Tiny's list.
Yep.
Anybody who knows me should be able to guess this one. It should come as no surprise that it's Geist of St. Traft.
Or a ghost in the room, if you will.
Eh.
It's not a saying.
So, for 3 mana, get a 2/2 is kind of
That card sucks, man.
Yeah, it's kind of mediocre. But when you tag on,
I played that card. That card sucks.
That's what is that Hill Giant or is
That's
that
a gray ogre.
Gray Ogre?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a gray ogre.
but then when you tack on Hexproof,
It's
starts
pretty
like-
medium.
It's,
Yeah, you're like, okay, we might consider it in the baddest of limited decks.
but then when you tack on, when he attacks, he makes a 4/4 flying angel tap and attacking. Just for 3 mana, he's essentially attacking for 6 power.
Yeah, that is what essentially means.
Yeah.
I remember the days when Phantasmal Image was the blue Doomblade for guys.
No, you just play Geist as your Doomblade for
That was-
Geist.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just with the hexproof, it's almost impossible to get him off the board.
God forbid you put a sword or a jit on him.
Or Batter Skull.
Yeah.
Which was the premise of my commander deck for the longest time. Was you put all those things on.
No, I'm just convinced the premise of your commander deck was to put. Oh man, why can I remember? Never remember names of cards. The land that says can't be countered. Cavern. I can't lose this game. I have counter spells. Cavern Souls.
All I need to win this game is something that bounces a creature. How am I going to do that? I guess I'll brainstorm with Jace.
Hey, to be fair to Tiny, never mind.
Matt thought I was doing a much sweeter play than I was.
He's like, man, he's got to be thinking like, well, if I bounce it, then he'll do this, so therefore I'll just keep brainstorming.
Matt, I'm a moron.
I did also offer before the game started to use my actual. But anyways, going back to my first card, with Sundial the Infinite, those 2 cards together,
Yeah,
are just amazing.
Yeah, because this card's balanced because the 4/4 goes away.
Yep.
That's true.
And
All on the turn.
Yep. And it's after damage is dealt that the angel goes away. So you push through, hit him for 4 or 6.
I do like that card. 2/2. When he attacks, make a 4/4 that exiles before the damage step.
That'd be good.
It is surprising though when I end the turn with Sundial, how many people think that they don't take damage.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah,
I believe that.
Almost every time I do that for the first time against somebody,
Yeah.
they just don't want to take the 6 damage.
Wow, I think we finally made it to Tiny's top 8 or top 10, top however many.
I think we're out
Just
of
do a
time.
top,
Top 20 cards.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time.
Yeah. See you next
Oh,
week,
man.
guys.
Thank you for tuning
All right.
in.
Alright, so now we will go silent for a second while I.
Actually, this one means they drafted Eureka. Me and Tiny nailed that one down a long time
I
ago.
thought that was.
Alright, audio's back. Can't say anymore. Yeah, I won't say that.
Good point.
Alright, so this card kind of fills the slot that Thought Scour did for Hoffman in the we started playing it when Treasure Cruise was a card thing.
Mental note.
Oh, I
No.
know. I know.
No, that card doesn't deal 3. It's Lava Spike. So,
some good stories about this card.
When Treasure Cruise first came out, Hoffman and I we pretty much figured out that Blue-Red Delver was dirt cheap to build in Modern.
I think we just didn't have the remands.
Yeah, we didn't have remands, which, because back then remands were like $15, man, and we already spent all that money on Serum Visions.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it was me that you were like, we need more bolts, and I was
Yeah.
like, let's just Lava Spike them.
Yeah, and I was sold.
Yeah, and so that's the story of how we registered Lava Spike in a Modern deck that wasn't burned.
Yeah, a bunch of times.
And we found it was really good.
It was good.
It turns out when you're beating down really quickly, and when everyone's casting Treasure Cruise or Ascendancy combo at the moment, at the time. You just didn't have time to remand things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot of people were playing remand then, and I remember every time I played against a remand deck, I'm like, alright, Lava Spike you, and they're like, wow, this remand sucks.
Yeah, the counter spells we did play were like a couple of spell pierces, but besides that, we just we played as many burn spells as possible because it was pretty much just blue-red burn.
Yeah.
I know the last tournament of Treasure Cruise's Reign of Terror, I actually went as far as to play one of Shard Volley, yeah. Because I was like, you know what? We need more Lava Spikes. Yeah, so that was Lava Spike. Moving on, this was, I think, the card that brought us back to Standard after a long hiatus from Standard in Shaman of the Pack.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, we had...
we had a short break.
We
had a short break right
Yeah,
after
we had
I
a short
played
break.
My 4-color deck.
Yeah, because we had a medium run at the Invitational.
Yeah.
And then the next Invitational came back around after we took a short break from Standard, and we found that we were both queued even though we didn't know it.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh man, we need to figure out Standard. And Shaman of the Pack had just gotten printed. And so, in essence, we built the deck by going, what elves are in Standard, cram those into a deck.
Yeah, I think we had like every elf except for maybe like
there was that mediocre black 3-drop that we didn't play.
Yeah, I think...
Was that the one that kills creatures if their power toughness aren't
it was
equal?
the 3
No, the 3/1 that, like, when it dies, they discard a card. But...
We played 4 Quarter Calling and 3 Collected Company.
Yeah.
Which I still think was the correct number.
Yeah. Yeah, because the point of the deck wasn't like, yes, you want to put as many elves into play, but it was to get a shaman into play.
Yeah, it was to get a shaman into play. It was either to Sylvan Messenger and draw way more cards than your opponent did.
Yeah.
Because that card was actually really sweet in the deck. It hit 3 cards a lot of the time. Or it was to do things like Chord for Shaman, trigger on the stack, Chord for another Shaman.
My favorite was when we figured out the tech of that black card that whenever a creature dies, you like draw a card or something.
Oh,
the one that had morph.
Non-elf.
Yeah.
What was that guy called? Oh shoot.
Grim Horror Specs.
Yes,
yeah,
Grim Horror Specs. We played that, and we played the green 5-drop that manifest, and then you could sack it to when a face-up creature died.
We needed a way to deal with people wrathing our board.
Yep. Yeah. So. That was the card that brought us back to Standard. We to a very mediocre run at that Invitational, but we got to hang out with Russell for that weekend, and we got to watch Kostecki win.
Did I win a tournament with elves, or did I?
I know we both top aided a IQ, I think, with it at the guild.
Yeah, because I think that's the only non-control deck I've ever played in Standard. I'll count my weird mid-rangey decks as control decks.
Yeah. So. On to Spellstutter Sprite.
What's this card, Tiny?
What?
No, never mind.
Matt, did you have any popper cards on yours? Because I was going to say this is my popper slot, but I don't think you had any.
Gush.
Gush, sure, yeah. But yeah, Spellstutter Sprite, definitely one of my early loves in popper was countering 1-drops with Spellstutter Sprite while having a Delver in play.
Or 2 and 3 drops.
Yeah, those were really good. Sometimes 5 drops. Yeah, I just love Spellstutter Sprite. I think Flash is a really fun ability. Mm-hmm. It's I like instant speed things, so I like holding up and being able to play threats and step, things like that.
I was actually playing that deck tonight before I came over against my friend, and I had 4 Fairy Miscreants and 3 of the Spellstutter Sprites, and you cast an 8-mana Eldrazi.
The Womolix Crusher?
Yeah. So I got to Gush, and I found...
Nice.
And I got to counter his 8-drop with a...
Would you say you crushed his Crusher?
No.
Oh, well, I would.
Alright, yeah, so that one's nice and simple. Then we have Kessig Wolf Run. This one, so you would think, I did play it in a green-red deck when it first came out, but that's not why it's on my list. It's on my list because I played it in a Bant control deck back in...
Good old Bant Wolf Run.
Yep. This was back in the days of Farseek and Sphinx's Revelation and Supreme Verdict, a time when you could play those 3 cards and do whatever you wanted with the rest of the deck. At this point, we were Resto Angeling Thragtusks.
Yeah, wasn't Augur Bolus in that deck a lot of the time?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like the Resto Angel Thragtusk plus Sphinx's Rev and Supreme Verdict just let you play random cards to fill in the blanks. But the reason I ran Kessig Wolf Run was just as sort of flood protection, because it was relatively free with Farseek, because you could just go get your red source late game with your top deck Farseeks. And Wolf Run just let you put all your mana into winning the game when you're kind of stalled out. And a lot of the time you always had a creature just because of the value you generated off Thragtusk or just having random augurs and stuff like that. So it just let you close out games faster than just waiting for a real threat to come off the top of the deck.
Yeah, because I didn't play much back then, but I know a lot of the times that you get into these games where I have 12 mana sitting here and just I haven't drawn my Rev yet or something like that, and you just be like, all right, this Augur Bolus is going to smash you for half your life.
Yeah. And sometimes you had the really insane plays of Kessig Wolf Run their creature so that you could Selesnya Charm it. That's when you knew that you were having a good time. Or sometimes you Kessig Wolf Run the Geist of Saint Draft. Yeah. Those were back when Magic was actually fun to play.
In Standard.
It's getting there.
Yeah. Alright, this is contender for least good card on
it's
our
the
list.
least powerful card.
Yeah, Ambush Viper. Back when I first started going to F&Ms, I started off playing just random chaff that like my friends and I had. Like, I know you talked about, you started with
my very first deck was mono blue counter spells and Mist Ravens.
Yeah, and I had blue red because I wanted removal spells as well. And we obviously got crushed with those decks at F&M, but we still had a ton of fun. But the first deck I actually put together was the Wolf Run ramp deck, but it wasn't like I had seen lists from like Pro Tours and stuff like that, but budgetary reasons and stuff like that made me make suboptimal choices. Things like I only had one prime time, but I played 4 Green Sun Zenith to make up for it.
It's the same thing, really.
Yeah. And I played Ambush Viper in that deck because it was the green Doomblade was my reason for doing it. And I would get people, they would go attack with my Geist in their Spirits deck and be like, Ambush Viper, it got you. And
killed anything in combat.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that deck. That looking back, it's kind of weird how I'm glad that I'm a lot better at the game now, but I wish I could go back and have as much fun as I did just playing F&M.
It was like a bliss, really.
Yeah, because like look at us. Like half the time when we play F&M, by round 3, we're kind of like burned out.
Here?
Whereas back then, we like I know Ethan, me, and some of our friends would spend like all week just pumped for F&M that week. So that's a reminder of the heyday.
I do miss those good old days where you could like find something like Noble Blastworm was one of my favorite creatures when I first started playing.
Yeah.
Like this card's insane, and just have fun casting bad cards like that.
See, when I started playing Magic, I was the alternate WinCon guy. I'm like, all right, we got to build zombies. We got to be an aggressive deck. We got to Undead Alchemist them. All right, guys, here we are. We're going to play Seagraph Scab and Lab Maniac. That was me.
All right, on to Dark Petition. This card's a blast. I think I've said that about a lot of my cards, but
Actually, it's a tutor.
Yeah.
Not a blast.
But you can go get a blast.
You can go get a blast. You can get anything you want, really.
This is what put Storm and Vintage back on the map.
Back on the map.
Because before this, you had to play a bunch of 1-ofs. Because like all the tutors were restricted, all the draw 7s were restricted, and you had to play a lot of draw 7s.
Yes,
which asked Hoffman and Matt, I think draw 7s in Vintage, especially in a non-forcible deck, are just garbage.
Yeah.
I don't beat Storm a whole lot, but I swear every time someone cast Time Twister against me, they just gave me like my Fluster Storm to get them.
Yeah, I think there's just way too many counter spells that matter in that matchup anymore. But yeah, Dark Petition just makes winning in Storm so much easier. It's sweet in Legacy Storm because it fills the like one of flex slot that used to be filled by what was the 3-drop tutor that's like $200?
Oh, Grim Tutor?
Yeah, because it's honestly a little better than Grim Tutor, I think.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Because like if you turn on the Spellmaster, it's just Demonic Tutor as opposed to Grim Tutor is 3-mana Demonic Tutor.
And you lose 3 with Grim Tutor, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, so Dark Petition sweet, and I enjoyed it. Yeah.
I bet Tiny had a blast with this next one too.
No, I had a good time with. No, alright, this one falls on. It's Goblin Rabble Master.
Oh man, what a card.
Alright,
yeah,
so
this card too.
Story time. Weirdly enough, I was playing Green Red Ramp in Standard again.
Huh. When has Tiny ever played that deck?
I don't know, but he plays the most different decks than the rest of us.
Yeah.
I think I do. I think.
Tiny and me play decks that are never similar.
Yeah, I attack with creatures and he draws spells. I draw spells, but I do.
I inevitably attack with creatures. They're just gigantic, big like robots that draw me cards.
But yeah, so this was back when the deck was it was mono green devotion splashing red for random red spells like Atarka and things like that. Not Atarka, but
No, it was Atarka.
No, it was before Atarka. It was the god, Xenagos.
Xenagos.
Like you played Xenagod and Xenagos the Planeswalker.
Xenagod and Xenagai. Come on.
Sure. But that deck played Courser of Krufix, which I thought was a very mediocre card. Like, I got that it was good, and I got that it generated card advantage, but I just felt like card advantage wasn't where you needed the help in the deck.
Needed to do things.
Yeah, you needed to do things. You needed to beat down. You needed to finish games before card advantage even mattered. So, you know what you do? You slot out the 4 Courser Krufixes, and you just jam 4 Goblin Rabble Masters in.
Yeah, and I mean, that card, it was a beating. If you played it on turn 2, it was at times tough to beat, because there wasn't a lot of good 2-drop or 1-drop removal back then. I mean, this was a time period where cons had just come out, and people were playing Siege Rhino decks. I think at that point, I was still playing Mardu. I had maybe just switched over to playing the 4-color deck that I played.
Yeah.
But, you know, people were playing, their 2-drops were Sylvan Caryatids, or some creature that didn't trade with Rabble Master.
Yep.
And then some people had Lightning Strikes.
Yeah.
You just got to kill them.
Yep. Yeah, that I had a lot of fun times casting turn 2 Goblin Rabble Master.
I had to wait till turn 3 to cast my Rabble Masters.
Yeah. This was the card that I got to ride to top 8 of states, playing 62 cards in my main deck. Thank God I never drew that
Scuttling Doom.
Yeah, Scuttling Doom Engine. I don't know how Russell convinced me to play that card.
Yo, that card was insane. It was a 6/6 for 6.
Yeah, I don't even remember what the abilities.
When it died, I think your opponent took 5.
Yeah, something like that.
And it couldn't be blocked by
small creatures. Yeah, because it's scuttled.
Under 2 power, right?
Yeah,
What?
I think under 2 power.
Yeah.
2 power or under.
But yeah, Goblin Rabble Master.
Alright, here we go. Sculling Doom Engine can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. When it dies, deal 6 to target opponent.
6, not even 5. I underrated the card.
And it was a 6/6 for 6.
I got that much. It was like, it was the better part of that cycle back then, the Soul Cycle. Those cards were sweet.
No, it wasn't the Soul Cycle.
I know, it wasn't literally part of it.
Yeah, because... Alright. Next card, Treasure Cruise. Drawing 3 cards is really fun, I think, right?
Been there, done that.
Yep. I was definitely one of the people that was up on Treasure Cruise when it was originally printed. I knew a lot of people who were like, no, it's not that good. And I'm like, it's an Ancestral Recall and Pauper. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, I didn't... This was slightly before we became like real good friends, but me and you were both sort of in the same spot where we're like, Yeah, this will probably see like a 2 or 3 of play. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty good. Ancestral's a good Magic card.
Honestly, I think Treasure Cruise is probably one of the things that it's weird that our friendship was cemented on a common, on a random common, but like you and I built the deck for Modern to grind IQs with. You and I both audibled to playing it at Grand Prix New Jersey for Legacy.
Yeah.
So it was just an insane card, and that was. I know it was a broken day in Magic, a broken couple months in Magic, but it was really fun to ride the Treasure Cruise train.
It was, oh my god. Yeah, that was such a blast. Well, actually, I would say it's such a spike, because we love a spike too.
Sure. Yeah.
Such a bolt. I don't know. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, that's one of the things that me and you can both agree on. We really like playing 1 and 2 drop creatures.
Yeah. Yep. 1 and 2 drop creatures that are good with blue spells.
Yeah, true that.
Is that what you're on, Grixis Delby?
Well, now I'm on Storm, Matt. And
Alright.
my 1 drop creature choice last every year.
So, the second to last card combos with my favorite card in all of Magic. It's a Fast Bond. It's a pretty basic enchantment that if you don't really look at it that hard, it doesn't seem that broken, and then you kind of realize, hey, this card's pretty insane.
Sure.
Yeah. Just getting extra land drops at the low cost of 1 life is just insane, and I don't think we really need to cover much else.
Yeah, I mean, so the basics of this card, you look at it and you're like, all right, it's 1 mana, it's gonna let me play all the lands in my hand. So you start. The starting effect of it is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
1 mana, you're accelerating to 3-4 mana already by turn 2 or something like that. That's pretty good on its own. It's better than Soul Ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then with your next card, you can get into it a little more, but it just becomes a super broken Magic card.
Just real quick, they unbanned it in Dual Commander.
Yeah.
At the same time that they banned a bunch of cards.
It is so unfortunate that no one plays Dual Commander, because I really want to build a...
If you let me play Geist, I'll play it.
Okay. We should start a league, like, legitimately.
Yeah. But when they unbanned that and Mind Twist, I think they made like green-black commanders like
a lot better, yeah.
A lot better.
Alright, Matt, work with me here. Deal. You can play Geist.
You can have Necropotence.
No, I don't give a crap about Necropotence.
It was already legal.
Yeah.
I get Edric.
Okay.
Oh, sure. We're in.
Easy. Yeah.
Alright, we should do that for one of our showdowns. Do Edric versus Geist.
Alright.
Like beyond that, regular Dual Commander rules. Okay, sounds good.
So you start like what, 2 life? What's the goal life total for that?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Alright, so moving on to my favorite card, which was on Matt's list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gush. Easily the favorite card of all time for me. I think it's the card that I have put the most thought into, at least. I mean, I bought Steve Menendian's book on Gush and read it multiple times.
He's put a lot of thought into that card.
Yeah.
Thank God you never lent it to
Yeah, I was about to lend it to Matt, and then Gush got restricted. Sad days.
It was a sad Gush. I had to jump out for Hoffman.
That's not even... That was like a -1 out of 10.
He said days and Gush.
Brainstorm? Wait, are we just naming cards now?
No, he said sad days.
So Gush by itself, if you play it properly, can... Obviously you're down on land drops, but if you play it as a sorcery, you can go float 2 mana, pick up the lands, play another land, make another mana. So you can fake land drops for 1 turn, generating a mana advantage. And imagine what happens when you have a Fast Bond in play. You get to pick up the lands, making mana, play them again, make more mana, Gush again even. I played that and stormed off a ton. Yawgmoth's Will, stuff like that. There's just so many choices you can make casting Gush that are not obvious and that can pay off in so minute of a way that it's hard to notice, but it affects games so much. And I enjoy casting it, and I enjoy thinking about it, and I think it's very sad that it was restricted in Vintage. I think it was the wrong card to restrict, personally.
I agree with that. And I think Gush is the one card here that like all of us have definitely like had a lot of experience with. I mean, for me, it probably places in like number 11 on my list. Like, all it takes is it seeing Zedru walking down the alleyway on a bad day for it to beat it up and take his place.
Yeah.
Gush is a great Magic card. I mean, it's busted.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So,
rest in peace, Gush. Team Unrestrict Gush all the way.
Yep. Hashtag Unrestrict Gush. Yeah. So,
But I would put that at one of those cards that's a lot harder to cast than it inherently seems like it would be.
Yep.
Because like
Very
you go,
offensive Magic card.
yeah. Because do you pick up the lands to make that third land drop like when you don't have it, or do you not, because you are setting yourself back?
Yeah.
Essentially next turn.
Yep.
Do you use it in response to something? Like if your opponent casts the
Yes.
spell.
Yeah. Do you use it as an instant is the big thing.
Yep.
Because I think that. So I don't think you should use simple rules for Gush, but if you have to use one simple rule for Gush, I think it is casted as a sorcery, not an instant.
Yeah. There are times to cast as an instant. A lot of like you'll
Last ditch effort.
playing around Wasteland.
Yes,
Like if they're trying to Wasteland you.
We're playing against Merfolk. Oh man, that felt super bad.
Island Walk.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first match I almost ever won in a Vintage tournament.
Almost
What?
keyword.
Yeah, I'm like, crush you with all these Merfolk you can't block. He's like, pick them up, block. It just felt so
Good
bad.
luck.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
So onto the real topic now. Right?
Yeah, that topic took a lot longer than I thought it would, but
we're on
I think that's sweet.
It's 30
hour,
cards.
12 minutes.
Yeah. I mean that's like what.
I don't have anywhere to be, so I think we should just bang out these two other topics. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, sure.
It's up to you.
I don't think they're gonna take too long.
Okay.
Probably not as long, no.
All right.
We could always, since we made a long time listing things, we could always make the overrated list next week as a.
Nah. Let's just go for it. I know I always enjoy when podcasts and content creators that I watch or listen to go long
You
because
just get to listen to our
you can just pause.
sultry voice go on for the next 3 hours.
So, Matt, you can lead us on this topic since you're the one that stole it from your friend.
So as I was thinking of an extra topic for tonight, I asked my friend while we were at the dinner, what would be something you'd be interested in hearing about, and we always argue about what is an overrated card, and to which I added, well, what's an underrated card,
Yep.
and for each color, because I know we used to complain all the time about Doomblade and Lightning Bolt. He played Bolt, and I played Doomblade, and he said that it wasn't fair because Doomblade could kill 100% of my or his creatures, and Lightning Bolt could only kill like 80% of mine. But my argument was, he's killed me with Lightning Bolts.
Yeah.
You can't kill an opponent with a
Checks
Doomblade.
out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that depends. Is your opponent a non-black creature?
Probably.
Oh, well.
I
then
No is the.
no is the correct answer, Matt. But I guess in your world, you can kill your opponent with Doomblade, which is good. That means Doomblade a really good card.
Yeah.
So, what we're just gonna go like each color. I don't think we'll cover multicolor, but each color and artifact.
Yeah, and just.
And this is just.
Yeah, we'll just come up with some quick ideas.
So I know we were talking about white beforehand. We said most overrated card. I think I said was Elspeth Knight Errant.
Yeah, Knight Errant.
I don't think it's overrated anymore. Though I do think when you ask people like what are the 5 best planeswalkers of all time, they put Elspeth way too much into.
high.
Yeah. But I think even before Gideon was printed, I wasn't convinced she was insane.
Yeah. Ever really? I never felt like she was even that great.
And I think once 4 mana Gideon was printed, he just edged her out even more.
The only time I've ever liked casting that Elspeth was in my Geist deck.
Yeah, I think it was good. I think there's situations where it's good, like you said in Geist, where jumping a creature is super relevant.
Like a Geist with a Batterstone.
But like I would see people play it in the sideboards of American Control, and I just don't think like
doesn't do
4
anything.
mana make a 1/1 every turn just didn't solve any problems in the deck.
I'd rather pay 2 more mana for the 6 mana Elspeth.
Yeah. And like we said before we started the episode, it's just
It's a huge
apples and
difference.
oranges.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the most overrated white card in my opinion. You said, what was the underrated card?
Blessed Alliance. So this is a card that does see play in Modern. Sideboard play, a little main deck play depending on the deck. And it's been up and down, but I think overall it's a pretty underrated card. I mean, it's a great card versus Death Shadow decks. Not that Infect sees a ton of play, but it's great versus that deck.
It's fine versus the Eldrazi deck.
Yeah, it's just another...
Like, yeah, you can sequence
spell.
it around your other removal to then get, like, things like Reality Smasher.
Which are tough to kill.
Yeah.
And sometimes put you down cards. It's just a super flexible card. It's a great sideboard option versus Burn, because it can either kill a Goblin Guide, or it can gain you life.
Or both.
Yeah, or both. It's just a very, I think, great flexible option for a lot of Modern decks that sees, I think, a little less play than it should.
All right, so Wooburg order, so blue.
Blue.
Overrated blue cards.
I would say, from a lot of like more casual players' standpoint, they complain a lot about Force of Will, and I don't think putting Force of Will up at the top of like Powerhouse, like blue spells, is worth being up there.
So there's definitely an argument to both sides of that. Force of Will is a very powerful Magic card.
I think that
it's something you. In Legacy, maybe less Legacy players appreciate how powerful Force of Will really is. Because there are a lot of matchups where you want to side out your Force of Wills there. But in Vintage, you really come to appreciate how important Force of Will is to a metagame.
Because like even the fair decks are doing degenerate stuff that you want to force.
And I mean, even in Legacy, where there's a lot of matchups where you would want to take out Force of Will, say Force of Will got banned in Legacy, the format would be unplayable.
Yeah, because you could get through with like oops all spells.
Yeah. I think the biggest... I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily overrated. I think it's more a question of considering what's fun in a game of Magic to different people. So it's not so much that they're overrated in their mind. It's just they enjoy doing their wombo combos and they don't like it being force willed for free.
So I think one card that, and this might be another one that's a little against the grain here, is Ponder. Ponder, it's a good Magic card. I don't think either of you two would argue that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a little overrated. I mean, a lot of the time, at least when I cast Ponder, you get these awkward situations where you're like, wow, I really want one of these cards. I guess I have to shuffle. And then it's shuffle, draw a card, which is not great. Then it's still, you shuffle away bad cards off the top of your library. That's great. It's still filtering. It's still a good Magic card, but there's almost a lot of situations where Preordain would have been better.
Yeah. I think that's a big one, is people not thinking about Preordain versus Ponder in deck construction.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes it makes you wonder, maybe there's a lot of decks maybe in Legacy that maybe they would be better if they played Preordain over Ponder.
I know
and
one
it's pretty
big
close.
Yeah, I know one big breakthrough I made in Magic, and especially in Legacy deck building, was it used to be if I was going to play blue, I would just start with 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponder, and I know it finally got through to me when I looked at Goss's Deathblade deck list that he only plays Brainstorm, that maybe you don't need to play Ponder in a deck. Maybe Brainstorm is definitely good enough to always see play in blue decks.
Yeah, because a lot of time you can turn it into an almost ancestral.
Yeah, but it's definitely worth thinking about Ponder instead of just auto-including it in any blue deck, and auto-including it over Preordain, because I do think there are situations where Preordain is just better.
Yeah.
Like you said, when you want one card, not the other, as opposed to...
as opposed to all 3.
Yeah.
Underrated card, though? Probably something like... maybe this is a stretch too, Echoing Truth.
Yeah. I have been playing a lot more Echoing Truths recently.
It's just one of those cards that it is a versatile answer. It's seen play off and on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, currently in Legacy Storm, I'm playing more Echoing Truths in my 75 card list than I am Chain of Vapors, than I am Urkel's Recalls. I'm playing the same amount of them as I am Braids, which was sort of my Abrupt Decay replacement.
Yep.
It's just a versatile card. It's a card that people don't often think about when they play into things.
Yeah.
And it gets you out of a lot of sticky situations.
It is nice when you're put into a position like where your opponent makes a bunch of tokens, like with a pyromancer or anything, and like they have lethal on board next turn, basically with all those tokens. that out to just completely erase all of them.
Well, it's like the flex slot in Merfolk. I was originally playing a Vapor Snag, and I changed it to an Echoing Truth because of the fact that I wanted main deck outs to things like Bridge and stuff like that. And it is such a versatile answer, being able to target non-creature permanents. And I do think it's not seeing as much play as it deserves at the moment.
Yep. Black. I already got two in my head. I think you're
for
gonna
overrated cards.
Overrated and underrated. I think you're gonna love these ones.
Overrated black card.
Bob.
Yeah.
I think Bob, obviously, again, very good Magic card. He still sees play, and I think he's on the uptick. He's a lot better than he was again a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But there's just sometimes he's too slow. There's too many aggressive decks in the format.
Dies too easily.
Yeah. I mean, I hate the argument of, well, you can't play him, he's just going to die before he does anything.
Yeah. But it is like,
but if he
welcome to Modern, where like he dies to every single removal spell, whereas nowadays threats die to some removal spells.
I mean, like,
which is significant.
Why would you play him when you can play Death Shadow, which instead of dying to Bolt and Path and Fatal Push, doesn't die to Bolt?
Yep.
You've taken 1/3 of the spells out of that equation.
And it's not like there's every single color that could play Bob has other ways to generate card advantage now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can play things like Tassiger. You can play things...
Even like Lingering Souls.
Yeah,
like the junk decks don't play Bob anymore because they like generate their card advantage by discarding Lingering Souls to Liliana, things like that.
Yeah, you know it's probably bad for Bob when there's a deck that wants to hurt itself.
And doesn't play Bob.
It wants to draw cards and they're like, I can't.
And it's a mostly low-cost deck, too. It's not like Bob is going to kill you in that deck.
Like
Bob it says the
says
deck
flipping
with...
Gurmag.
But that'd probably be what... I don't know if you cut Gurmag Angler for Bob,
No.
if you were to force Bob into the deck. But
You play both. I played Steel Bob decks.
Yeah, I played Emrakul Bob decks.
I want these games to be over real fast. I'm either going to kill you because I'm going to hit the Emrakul and cast him, or I'm going to die because I saw him on Bob.
Underrated card, Night's Whisper.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to fit it in. I think it's actually hard to find an underrated black card. I think a lot of people
I don't know. I don't know that Night's Whisper is underrated. I think it's just not good at the moment. I think...
Painful truths.
I think you can't be spending turn 2... Doing nothing. Because, like, it's Modern. Like, I don't think that we're talking about, like, Legacy or Vintage for Night's Whisper. Because, yes, it's seen... But, like, it's not as good... Like, it saw play before the Delve spells were printed, and the Delve spells take that slot. But I just don't think in Modern you can spend turn 2 doing nothing and not affecting the board. So I don't necessarily think that it's underrated. I just don't think it's good.
Murderous Cut.
Murderous Cut is good, yeah.
It's one that I play, not a ton of. I play one of it in Legacy.
I think that's one thing to point out. Like in Legacy, I think other people underrate it because it's not always as efficient as every other removal spell in the Grixis Delver deck. But the reason you and I play it, and I guess Matt too, is it
plays around Sanctum Prelate.
Yeah, plays around Sanctum Prelate and Chalice on one.
Yeah.
So like it's just relevant being able to beat cards they're seeing a lot of play.
It also kills your opponent's Gurmag Angler. Which a lot of your removal.
Yeah, everything Bolt and
if Fatal Push. If Fatal Push, it wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Or because you're playing Bolt, Push, and Abrupt Decay. None of those kill a Gurmag Angler.
Yeah. And with so many more people playing Gurmag Angler instead of True Name, that is relevant.
It also kills the Drowsies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. There, yeah. So,
not hard.
Murder's Cut that card.
Murder's Cut. So, where we at?
Red. Overrated red cards.
Grim Lavamancer.
Is it even overrated? He's playing like Burn, and I think it's good in Burn.
I think a lot of people sideboard it too often.
I haven't seen it in
sideboard. I can
sideboard.
accept arguments that it's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Overrated.
I think it is good in a sideboards also. Like
I've played it.
I think the thing is like Snapcaster and Delve creatures take up a lot of the slots, but
Do you feel like there are times where Lightning Bolt can feel a bit overrated just because everybody is like, it's a good removal spell?
hey, you said that just as Austin pointed out, actual Lightning Bolt. Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually.
When you play it in burn, Lightning Bolt will never be overrated.
Yes.
Which is really good. But when you play like a control deck and you're like, I want my removal spell to be Bolt over Path or...
I could make the same argument though that Lightning Bolt might not be overrated right now. I mean,
Yeah,
Modern, it doesn't see play.
Yeah.
It's just like not played at all.
Yeah, so I think that is another
And in
one. Where,
Legacy, I think it is just correctly rated and that it's very good.
yeah, because when you draw a bunch of cards, you can make up for the fact that it doesn't always kill everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one's not necessarily overrated. Some people do, but I think as a whole, the meta doesn't overrate it.
Yeah.
What is?
But I'm just saying that it fluctuates though. Like there are times where people
Yes,
push it when it shouldn't be, and there are other times where people don't push it enough.
Red cards that are overrated. Man, it's tough. I think a lot of red cards are very appropriately rated. That's because a lot of red cards are the things that people splash for. Because I mean, let's look at the red cards that people play. Pyroblast.
So this is going out. So this is going out on a ledge, and it might not be as an abstract overrated, but let's say Kolagun's Command. I do know it's a multicolored card,
Okay.
but here's my
reason
point.
people
Here's
play
my point is, like you just said, it's the reason people play Grixis Death Shadow instead of Esper Death Shadow, which I think is a slight mistake. I think Esper Death Shadow is percentage points better than Grixis, and I think
At least right now.
and I think people overvalue the ability to main deck smash things.
Yeah. Again, like right now, it's maybe slightly better. It goes back and forth.
Yes.
In an affinity metagame, I'd much rather have Kolaghan's Command,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But being able to pick up white in Death Shadow for Path to Exile and stuff like that, I think is a big game over Kolaghan's Command. I can accept that argument. Where it is a black-red card, people are splashing red for that card.
Yes, yeah. It is a red card for the reason, or like the ability to play it. So underrated red cards. I think Abrade. I don't think it's seeing nearly as much play as it should.
Yeah,
I think it is really good in all the formats.
I've taken, 1 or 2 tournaments now with it.
Yeah.
And it's been, every time I've played it, I really like the card. Obviously in Standard it sees a lot of play.
Yes.
But, I mean, I don't think this list is really talking about Standard much.
Yep.
You have a limited card pool. People are going to play the good cards that are good.
Yeah.
In Modern, I think its biggest downfall in Modern might be that if you're going to play a Braid, Bolt kills most of the artifacts you care about.
Yeah, it's in Modern, it's a lot harder to be as mana inefficient as 2 mana is, as mana inefficient as a Braid is.
But like in Legacy, it's super nice to have a nice flexible option where before, so my example is that I'm playing Storm.
Yeah.
And before Storm would splash green specifically for Abrupt Decay in order to deal with things like Chalice, Spheres of Resistance, Thalias, that kind of nonsense. And now you can just play red.
Yep.
Which they already played a couple of red sources for Passing Flames. And you get to play a Braid, which deals with all of those things just as well.
Yeah.
No, Nana and I talked about it as soon as he saw it. He wanted to put it in Scred. So he wanted to try.
I think it's worth trying, I guess.
He cut bolts for it.
That's aggressive.
Yeah. Well, after trying it at F&M, he realized that...
There are metagames where I could actually see that, I guess. Because your Screds do fill the bolt slot, and like in a Chalice-heavy metagame, maybe it is worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Chalice is the biggest reason to play a Braid in Modern.
Yes.
Because people aren't going to be Chalicing you into, and you need to be able to... Sometimes you want that flexible thing where you're like, well, I have to deal with this Chalice, but I die to this creature on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Wooburg, so green.
Green.
Goyf.
Goyf, overrated?
I think so.
Yeah, it definitely was, at least for a very long time.
Like, I think people have come down on it, but I still think, like... I don't know, it's so weird, because it is very good, but...
It literally is just a beater. It does nothing. It doesn't impact the board.
Yeah, I think just the fact that it is still like $80 to $90 just shows that it's overrated.
And I mean that's come down Do you remember the days when Goif was over $200?
Yeah.
Because I do.
If it weren't for opening them in packs, I would never have played them. But after playing them, I will say
They're really good.
It is nice to have like a turn 2, like 3-4 beater.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to beat that.
Though, on the opposite side of that, there's a lot of incremental hate nowadays, and especially like modern, where you're just like, all right, my Goif's like a 3-4 because of my opponent's graveyard because they thought scouring, and then they go, all right, I'll play this Gurmag Angler, and you're like, wow, my Goif is a 1-2.
Yep.
This kind of sucks.
Yeah, so I think, especially with the printing of the Delve creatures that let you have big threats for cheap cost.
We'll say around the same cost.
Yeah, if not slightly better.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it has shown how Goif isn't just an auto-include in all mid-range decks.
Yeah, I think that...
I mean, look at also, like, the Zoo decks. Like, obviously Zoo isn't a tier 1 deck, but it used to be that you auto-included Goif into the Zoo decks because it was a big beater. Now there's so many insanely good, like, hasty or effect-driven 2-drops that edge it out.
I just think it's awkward that, like, a lot of decks that want to play Goif also sometimes want to play Skoos.
Yes.
And you're like, I want to eat the graveyard to make him bigger, but as he's getting bigger, I'm making my Goif smaller.
Yeah.
The green underrated card. That's a tough one. Green doesn't see a lot of play right now. And I think that's for good reason. Green underrated card.
Yeah, because green doesn't play with like spells, and I think we're still in a spells matter age.
I was gonna say, because you have collected company decks, which none of those cards I'd say are underrated.
No.
You have the Goif base decks, and we just said that Goif we felt was overrated. In fact, plays green spells.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those are.
It could be quarter calling as the answer. I mean, like, it still sees play, but I think people are lower on it than they were before. But it's because Collected Company is so good.
Yeah.
But all the collected company decks just play Chord.
Yeah.
Grimflare, if you want to consider.
I think people are high on that card, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, in modern.
So.
Yeah.
It's picking up. Yeah. Wow, there might not be an underrated green card.
Yeah, it turns out
News
people are good at evaluating creatures that don't like play like spells.
Yeah. News of the day, guys. Green, not the greatest color right now. It's true. Think of a green deck you want to play in any format. It's your
Collected
splashing
company.
it.
Like it's like
Yeah,
it.
it's
The,
exactly
the thing is, people know that the really good green cards are really good,
Yes.
and there's nothing that's like.
And there's no reason to play anything less than a really good green card, because you might as well just cut green out at that point.
Yeah. Newsflash.
Not many good green spells.
No, it's not that. It's that the good green spells are good and the bad ones are bad.
Because, I mean, people play Leovold. I think he's appropriately rated.
Yeah.
Same logic there as, like, the Colgan's command logic.
Yeah.
Abrupt Decay, again, same logic. People play that.
Heck, I personally think Abrupt Decay might be a little overrated at the moment.
Yeah. I guess that covers all that then.
So,
Like
artifact / colorless.
Overrated. So I think this is a vintage nod. Arcbound Ravager.
Are people overrated?
I don't know. I think that engine is good.
I think it's good. I think that people are
So
stuck on
you're
it
pointing
right
out the fact that I was able to get away from the fact that that engine is so good that I'm playing like a Nullrod version of Shops.
Yeah, which I think is just honestly better.
Whereas so many people, like, not to... Luckily, none of them probably are watching, but not to be a downer on the vintage community, but so many of them are not good
They're stuck on net decking.
Yeah.
They're stuck on not building a deck. I mean, there's very few people who actually innovate in the vintage community.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably list the true innovators on, like, one hand that I know off the top of my head. It's like Steve Menendian,
Brian
Kelly, I think Rich Shea to an extent.
Yeah, Rich Shea.
Kevin Crone with Steve Menendian.
Yeah. I think the big thing about Kevin Crone is the fact that he prefers to brew and doesn't care if he actually wins, in his own words.
Yeah, but I think Ravager, very good card. It's obviously like great in Modern too, where its power level is respected.
My underrated card for colorless, Pithing Needle. I
Pithing
think Pithing Needle is severely underrated at the moment.
I agree with that. It's a very, very flexible answer. It's one of those cards that even, it seems weird to mention Commander, but it's one of those cards that even as a one of in Commander, you include it because it's so flexible.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to you that there's so many times, especially in Modern and Legacy, where I'm like, I have 14 cards in my sideboard. I guess I'll fill it out with a
Needle.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Commander, people are always going to play Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
There are even Commanders that you can shut off with it. If you go to Modern, a worst case scenario, you can turn people off of lands, of their fetches, on top of a bunch of other things. I know for Merfolk, I need to remember to bring it in more when people are playing Ratchet Bombs.
Yep, Ratchet Bombs.
I've gotten destroyed by some Ratchet
What
Bombs.
decks play Ratchet Bombs that you're not bringing in against?
Eldrazi.
I bring in against that because Walking Bliss also is really good against you.
I know, but I made the mistake once, and it mattered.
Yeah. Hits Engineered Explosives. It's another big one. Yeah.
That's another one that's underrated, I think, is Engineered Explosives.
It's really weird.
I feel like its price keeps people off of it.
Yeah, I guess that's one
So
thing.
like they're like, man, I wish I could play Engineered Explosives,
But
I guess
I'll
play this Ratchet Bomb.
So I will give Cody Gavigan one sweet thing. He did cast a Engineered Explosives for CMC 8 against one guy to because it was for 2 colors, but CMC 8 to crack a Sanctum of Ugin to go get car.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Definitely never thought of that line before. I can't say I would even see that one in the game necessarily.
Yeah, so those are over and underrated cards.
Final topic?
Message us if you can think of an underrated green card.
Yeah.
The only card I can think of that I've ever cast that was green in a constructed format would be Traverse in the Modern deck Andrew and I built. I don't even think that's...
No, that's definitely not underrated. That's appropriately rated as not great.
Yep.
Yeah. Final topic?
Final topic. Risk taking specifically for in-game decisions.
Yeah.
Always do it.
So that is the thing that we're trying to counter. The thought that we're trying to counter is the always be risky thoughts.
Yeah.
Always play Belcher. Always go for it.
I think the biggest thing with risk taking is being able to see where you are in the game and make decisions based on that.
Yeah, so I think a great example of a risk versus reward situation was back when we were playing Gush Bond and playing Doomsday and Vintage.
Yeah.
And people were playing Mentor, as they were up until very recently. You knew you didn't have to do anything to go off up until there was a Mentor on the board. Because unless they had exactly Time Walk, they weren't just going to go, oops, you're dead.
Yes.
Like we did.
Yeah.
So you could sit there and you could weigh your options and just be very patient and not be very risky.
Mm-hmm.
And you could wait till you had the perfect hand up until that point.
Yeah. And once they hit that point, then you have to start wondering, do I need to take risks in order to hopefully win this game because I'm for sure dead next turn, things like that.
I do think Magic is a waiting game.
Yes.
And it's always that optimal point of waiting to I can't wait any longer. It's you don't want to really. There's not too many times where you want to just keep being the one who's pushing.
Yes.
Because even in an aggro deck, you can push too hard.
Yep.
I have definitely learned lessons from playing my entire hand out in Merfolk just to get anger of the gods.
Yeah.
And then you just lose.
And I mean, that's another risk versus reward situation where sometimes you have a hand in an aggressive deck where you can play around Wraths.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other times where you're like, in order to kill my opponent and play around spot removal, which is much more common, I just have to play out my hand and lose to the Wrath. And that's the kind of decision you have to make.
Yeah. I think it's very pronounced and limited, but you can see it in Constructed. I think the biggest mistake people make is thinking, oh, well, I'm even crushingly ahead in the game. I'm destroying them. They have a 10% chance of winning. I can take a risk here just because I could do something that's a 50-50 that wins this turn 50% of the time, but sets me back 50% of the time. But then it'll just make you the game a 50-50 because I was already 90-10.
Kind of like in Popper when you go for the 8-hug fling when you could have just continuously...
Yes. Yeah, into open mana and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So where it's like, that is a profound misunderstanding of how you should handle risk, because you can just keep the 90% win rate across like 3 or 4 turns, as opposed to a fifth all of a sudden being like throwing away 40% of that and being like, coin flip, let's see if we win or lose here just because I'm so far ahead.
And often you'll still have that coin flip opportunity in the future too, is one of the big opportunities.
Yep.
I think another prime example of risk versus reward is if you're playing something like a control deck, where your opponent might have like a 3-mana 3/3 on the board.
Yep.
And they might be attacking you with it, and you have a removal spell in hand. But sometimes you want to save that because you know that, wow, if they just play like a 6/6 here, I can't possibly beat that, but I can draw my own 4/4 off the top.
Yep.
That's an out in my deck. Where you might take 9 points of damage from that 3/3 before you're finally like, all right, now I have to deal with this and use this removal spell.
Yes. I think another part where people fail to see how to use risk to their advantage is when they are that 10% in a match where your opponent's crushingly ahead, and a lot of people will just sort of play to not lose immediately, whereas you should be taking your huge chances there. You should be rolling the dice. You should be trying to give yourself a chance to get lucky, because guess what? You're already unlucky. You're already in the 10% to win. And even if you try not to lose, you're still 10% to win. Whereas if you flip a coin to try and win, half the time you win and half the time you...
Yeah. A good example, last night I was testing Vintage on Untap.in.
Yeah.
Not great testing, but it's still testing.
Yep.
And I played against an opponent playing Oath of Druids.
Yeah.
And he mulls to 4, and I'm on 7. I go, all right, turn 1 Jace Rinse Prodigy, pass the turn, no counter matching up or anything.
Yeah.
And he goes, turn 1 Oath, pass. I'm like, okay, well, here we are, pass back. I have a creature on board. And of course he's going to hit his Grizzlebrand off of the Oath. Yeah. And I'm probably going to lose the game because he's going to draw a million cards.
Yeah.
But I still made him play it out. Sometimes he draws 14 cards and does nothing. And then I untap and do my thing.
Yep.
I've beaten more Storm opponents by them going, oh crap, good game, than I have like actively beaten them.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah, it's not necessarily even like hoping your opponent misplays. It's even like things like we were talking about where you gush at instant speed to hope to draw the one of counterspell left in your deck. Things like that where you're like, if you fail to, or like you fetched and you can't spin top anymore, but you can activate top to draw the top card and hope it's a Force of Will. Things like that. Just knowing that you're going to die immediately and taking chances to hopefully not die immediately.
Yeah. I think a big part of risk versus reward is playing around cards. Where obviously if you're not thinking about what's going to happen in a game of Magic, you're just casting your spells every turn and doing whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about what your opponent's going to do in the next 2-3 turns, you start thinking about what risks you might have to take, what you don't care about, what you do care about, and what situations you might get into. If you're at 4 life versus an aggressive red deck, whatever, and your opponent has a 2/2 on board, you might be very tempted to use that Wrath effect versus that 1/2/2 on board. But your opponent has 3 cards in hand. Are you necessarily going to win that game? You might have to get greedy and hope they play them out, and you get to Wrath away their hand, essentially. Maybe not the greatest example, but that's one of those situations where you have to consider, am I going to win this game if I play conservatively versus playing in a manner that puts me further behind?
Yep. Yeah, so
So at Effingham, last week, playing against Tom, and I remember hearing him say that he wanted to play his Through the Breach deck. Like at first round, I couldn't see what he was playing, and so I go turn 1 Seachrome Coast. He goes turn 1 Fetch Land. That didn't really tell me what deck he was on. And I go turn 2 Island Meddling Mage. And I just threw it out there because I figured if he is on Through the Breach, I'm probably not going to be able to get through that with Merfolk. That's a pretty tough one.
yeah.
So I named Nourishing Shoal, to which he then proceeded to show me 3 Nourishing Shoals in his hand.
To be fair to you, Matt Bye, I don't know if I would have named Nourishing Shoal in that matchup.
No, that's the only, like, because, like, once you name Nourishing Shoal,
They can't just keep going.
because, like, their dudes don't stay around.
Yeah, I guess.
So, like, it
But
becomes,
they
like,
can
a...
sometimes they just kill you by putting, like, a Borberg.
Yeah.
I would just say Glorious Vengeance, then they don't ever get to have the dude.
Yeah, you, like, do Glorious Vengeance and then hope to kill them before it... But, yeah. Yeah, I think Nourishing Shoal's also fine.
I also had a bounce spell in hand. I couldn't remember if it's Merfolk or the Echoing Truth. But
Or the other one is they just, like, go, alright, I'll Through the Breach this World Spine Worm. And then they do get to keep creatures around.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how game 3
And then you Echoing
Yeah.
Truth them.
Because
Yeah.
I block, and he goes, okay. I'm like, alright. You know, put my cards in the graveyard. You know, like, drawing. He's like, you're dead. I'm like, what? He's like, those have trample.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it goes 15 you, right? 15?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And then it's like, here's 15 power still.
Yep.
Wait, that thing's a 15?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it makes 3/5/5 tramplers,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
is also where Echoing Truth would have been very nice.
Yes. Yeah, so that's...
Synopsis.
Take risks when you're behind, try and minimize risk when you're ahead. I
Yeah.
think is the most basic concept.
Yep.
If I had had more time to prepare for today, I had thought up a pretty basic game to show the concept, but I didn't feel like trying to actually figure out all the math. So,
Math sucks.
yeah.
So let's film it and put it up on YouTube.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. I actually have Friday off, so maybe I'll work on that Friday.
Okay.
Anything else? Like we said, 2 weeks from now, join us for our Ixalan, right?
Mhm.
Ixalan
Don't join me. I won't be
preview, yeah. Hoffman will be here. Hopefully Andre will be back. If Andre isn't back, maybe we can bring in TJ.
Maybe I'll be here. Who knows?
He already said TJ.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, we can just alternate TJ.
We look the same. He's
I've been
better than I am.
enjoying the like alternating co-hosts.
Just kick Andre off.
Like maybe I'll take the next one.
Oh god, no, I'm too planning then.
Wrecked. Check us out on Facebook, The Spindown Podcast, YouTube, The Spindown Podcast, here on Twitch at Spindown Podcast,
Patreon.
Patreon, patreon.com/Spindown Podcast. I haven't checked that in a while. I need to double check that.
Get that hashtag sweet spin down swag.
Yep.
Triple net every time.
You can check me out just in general.
Yep.
Just in general, check me out.
Wish Hoffman, Cam, and I luck this weekend at Eternal Extravaganza. If I can get internet for my tablet, I'll keep everyone updated on the Facebook page. All right. Peace out then.
Deuces.